There's a big reason why Gothic and Gothic 2 are widely considered as one of the best action RPGs ever made. Despite that newer games from Piranha Bytes like Risen series and Elex are nowhere close to that status, they still have a lot to offer, especially if you love open world RPGs with unique world building. But a lot of people have problems with newer Piranha Bytes games, especially at the beginning when your character is really weak. We are being spoiled by newer RPG games with a lot of hand-holding. There is none of that in these games, and that was quite normal back in 2002, but not so much today. The core design of every Piranha Bytes game always stayed the same. For better or for worse, depends on who you ask. It's important to mention that doesn't mean you won't find modern aspects of newer RPGs in these games. I'm going to break that core concept here in order to help the people who are struggling and anyone in general who intends to buy a Piranha Bytes game. In every game that Piranha Bytes ever made, you begin the game as a total wimp. This is one of the most important things that you need to understand. The reason for this will vary from game to game from the story point of view, but in the end the outcome is the same. So by common sense, you can't just expect to kill a couple of human NPCs or even small animals right at the start. No one is stopping you if you want to try it, but your chances are really small and usually it's not even worth it. If you think for a second about this, it makes perfect sense. The chosen difficulty will also affect this, but not drastically in the beginning, since even on easy difficulty you can get killed pretty easily by a small critter if you're not careful. You can choose to go and explore the whole world right at the start, but you'll without a doubt have a hard time surviving. Just invest a small amount of time to get some simple armor, a weapon and maybe some healing items. You will increase your chance for survival by a large amount. Bear in mind though, this will still not mean that you're a killing machine. You may find yourself with no goal to get the starting items, but you should already know that you should pick everything along the way that's not nailed down. Not a single Piranha Bytes game has an inventory limit, so go nuts. Getting a few level ups will really help as well, and usually you can get a few easy levels in the first starting zone you come across to. The easiest way to level up is always by doing quests and not by killing monsters. Even the simplest quest will give you a lot of XP in the beginning or glory in Risen 2 and 3, you just need to talk to a bunch of NPCs to trigger them. In some cases they will intercept and talk to you. We mentioned leveling briefly in the last section, but the whole process is also unique in a little immersive way. When you have enough experience or glory, you will level up, pretty standard stuff. But you're also gonna get certain amount of learning points. You will use your learning points when you want to increase your skills, attributes, or learn new spells and abilities. You can't just simply open a menu and get all of this. You'll need to find a trainer that will teach you these skills and abilities for a certain amount of learning points, and he will ask for some gold as well because they are greedy bastards and nothing is for free. Different NPCs will teach you different sets of abilities that are usually tied to the faction of that particular NPC. All of the trainers are almost always easy to find, but there are some that are slightly hidden sometimes, and they usually can teach you something uncommon and unique. There's not a single Piranha Bytes game that doesn't have factions you can join. In every game this feature plays a big part of the main story. It's a pretty straightforward system actually. Usually there are 3 major factions and all of them have unique abilities they can teach you and the gear you can obtain from them. For example, armors are always a big deal within the faction. The higher your title or the rank with the faction, the better armor you can buy from them. You increase your rank by doing quests for the faction that you chose. At some point you'll have to decide if you want to continue working with your chosen faction, and if you do, there is no turning back, you can't switch factions. Before this will happen though, you will get warned by some NPC from that faction. This is a clever system that encourages multiple playthroughs, since you can't see all the game content with one chapter. Every faction functions differently and has different quests. For example, in Elex you can choose to wander around without joining a faction for a long time, and there is still a lot to see and do in the world. You can even decide to do the quests for all of the factions up until that point when you must decide. This will earn you a lot of experience and levels. The strongest part of every Piranha Bytes game in my opinion was always the world you can explore. That's also one of the main reasons why you can still play older titles like Gothic 2 for example and still get really immersed, even though the graphics are really outdated. Older Gothic world maps were smaller but really packed with interesting locations full of things to do. The side quests are not just simple fetch quests. There's a lot of hidden areas with little puzzles to solve. The world never feels flat in Piranha Bytes games. Newer games have much bigger maps, but they are still really well built, especially the world of Elex. It's really vertical, which gives a lot of depth, and it complements the usage of the jetpack. At first, I was concerned that this means you can just fly around non-stop, which would ruin the exploration a lot, but it's quite the opposite really. You have just enough fuel to land on that edge you spotted or land safely from a big jump off the cliff. Either way, the world is begging to be explored, and it always rewards you in some way. What's really important as well is that sense of danger that is always present while exploring, something that similar games like Skyrim don't have without the mods. You can usually tell how dangerous some locations will be just by looking at the monsters that are present there. The feeling when you're finally strong enough to kill that monster that gave you so much trouble in the past is really good. Like I said before, you start the game as a total wimp, and you're going to feel like that for quite a while until you get some levels and gear. By the end game, you're gonna be a total badass and arguably, why did I write that down?
Arguably
OP, especially on lower difficulties. That will be all I wanted to cover in this video. I hope it will help some people as an introduction to any of these games. If you liked the video, please support me by pressing the thumbs up button and maybe subscribe for more content. I recently made a Patreon page as well, so if you want to see this channel grow, you can make a small donation there. See you in the next one.